Welcome back to the Podforce One podcast. I'm Miranda Devine, and today I'm in the office of the U.S. Attorney for the District of Columbia, Jeanine Pirro. Judge Jeanine Pirro, thank you so much for joining Podforce One today. You are a legal trailblazer. You're a television icon. You were the first female judge in Westchester County, first female district attorney. You hosted hit TV shows, most recently Fox's top-rated The Five, novelist, best-selling author. One of your books whose title I love is Liars, Leakers and Liberals. And now your probably most consequential role in terms of affecting the citizens of this country is U.S. Attorney for the District of Columbia, the largest U.S. Attorney's office in the country, where you continue your fight for justice and common sense, albeit in a very liberal city that only 6% of the citizens actually voted for Donald Trump. So, Judge Jeanine, I want to start with the president's very successful crackdown on crime in DC, which, the residents don't really seem to appreciate, at least the elites who are represented in the magazine of the city called The Washingtonian. Mm-hmm. And I just read the latest edition, and they say, it's an invasion, it's an occupation of the city, and they call it the so-called Donald Trump's crime emergency. What do you say to that?
First of all, I'm delighted to be on with you. I love you. I love the New York Post. I love what you're doing with this podcast. I guess I start by saying that it was an honor of a lifetime to be nominated by President Trump to be the U.S. Attorney in Washington, D.C. It brings me back to my roots, what I love most, my career as a prosecutor, a judge, a DA for over 3 decades. So I am thrilled to be back here. I'm thrilled, but I'm also very concerned. Mm-hmm. I'm concerned about the fact that I am now in a city in Washington, D.C., where it almost seems as though people were, just ready to accept whatever level of crime there was. And unfortunately, that doesn't promote hope, and it doesn't promote safety, and it doesn't promote business or anything else. And so thank goodness for Donald Trump, President Trump, who made a decision to sign this executive order to make Washington safe and beautiful. All right. That is my charge. That is what I'm doing here. The number of homicides have been reduced incredibly. In 2023, there were 219 homicides in D.C. Last year in 24, there were 151. This year at the same time, there are 113. So the homicide rate continues to go down. And since the surge, the homicide rate is down 67% in terms of the surge. So for all those people who say, this is federal troops. No, this is angels coming in and saying.
This is 50 or 60 people alive because of the surge.
Because of the surge.
Wow.
And then what we've got is in terms of clearance rates, for the teens that were killed, the clearance rate is 34%, which means that 66% of these homicides have not yet been solved.
Wow.
And we're going to put a push on them. I'm going to put prosecutors on those cases.
This is where the victims are teenagers or children.
Yeah, the victims are teenagers. And the sad part is every one of them is African-American, Miranda. Have a heart.
Yes.
Have a heart. Look at these numbers. Look at these people.
And their families, their grieving families, no one cares about.
Well, I care.
The media doesn't care.
Why is safety something that can be objected to by the liberal left?
Yeah.
I want to say to them, who amongst you thinks that crime was at such an acceptable level that you were willing to live with it? Does that mean that you're willing to have someone in your family be victimized or, God forbid, killed or shot, which is not unusual in this city?
Like the intern, the poor Eric.
Yes, in which case is in my office, in which we investigated with the Metropolitan Police Department. How many of you think that that was okay? Because you don't get to decide what's acceptable. What's acceptable is when there is no crime. And until we get there, my job pursuant to my charge by the president, and thank goodness for this president. Thank God for this president, because this city was going under. I don't care who you are or what your politics are. Washington was not safe. It was, in terms of homicides in 2024, it had the fourth largest homicide rate in the country. And why is that? When you peel back the layers of the onion, you realize it's because the people in charge in DC, for some reason, think that it's okay if you're 14 or 15 or 16 or 17, if you shoot someone but you don't kill them, then I don't get to prosecute them. They don't come into the criminal justice system. So the first thing for me was to make a decision as to where are the hurdles? Where are we going to start? The first place is lowering the age of responsibility. In New York, recently, a 13-year-old charged with murder. When I was a DA in New York, I charged a 13-year-old with murder. Okay. I come to DC. You can shoot people at 17, not kill them, and go to family court. So you can sit back and say, well, what's wrong with family court? Family court is there to protect the family. It's to rehabilitate, which is a wonderful cause. But if they did it. Yeah. But if you're going to yoga and ice cream socials, then this is not where I want young criminals, I call them punks, to go. And do you remember the Doge kid? They called him Big Balls.
Yes.
Okay. I spoke to the girl that he was trying to protect the next morning. And the next morning she told me that they were this whole throng of young kids. They were trying to pull her out of the car as Big Balls, the Doge kid, was getting beaten. And she said, Judge, they were 12 and 13 years old. Right. They were not 16 and 17. Fast forward. The case goes to family court. I cannot get it. It's not a crime over which I have jurisdiction. And the two 15-year-olds that were ultimately charged and brought to family court are out. It's over.
Already out.
It's over. There's no record. That's the end of it.
Really?
So this is what I'm dealing with in DC.
And how can you see their records? I mean,
I can.
And at 15, they probably have long records.
The only thing I can tell you without violating the law is that whenever I get someone on a homicide at the age of 17, okay, the first time I get that person where I have jurisdiction, if it's a murder, I get their record, and I tell you, virtually every one of them has a long record before it of shooting without killing, possession of a weapon, of carjacking. And Miranda, when they carjack, they don't just steal the car. You know what they do? They steal it, then they torch it. They torch it so we can't get the DNA, we can't get the evidence. So this is what is going on in Washington. And, you know, President Biden was good with it, but I'll tell you what, the people in Washington are not. I'm going into the districts to talk to the citizens. They want to be safe. So for all those liberal leftists who say, you know what, we don't want the National Guard, well, that's too bad. Then maybe what you're saying is you believe that people should be able to go on the streets and commit crimes, that you don't believe that the first order of government is the protection of its people. And when I talk to people, it's totally different. So, and the president has proven with the surge that he can make a difference. President Biden didn't do it. The U.S. Attorney before me didn't do it. What we've got now, and what's unique, I don't just do federal crimes, and this is huge in Washington. I mean, we have civil jurisdiction. We have terrorism jurisdiction. We've got all kinds of commercial and civil litigation against the government on behalf of the government, along with the criminal. But I also have local crime.
Right.
So I wear the DA hat and I wear the federal hat. And that gives me the opportunity to look at everything and say, this is going to end. And I don't want to hear one person talk about how a young person's prefrontal lobe is not sufficiently developed, as though that's a reason to not bring him into the criminal justice system.
And it doesn't mean you can't rehabilitate them. I mean, what you're saying is that there were lots of warnings along the way. Right. And if someone had intervened, you could have stopped a homicide.
I could have. There's no question in my mind, Miranda, and it breaks my heart. It breaks my heart that in this city, there were 26 African-American teens shot and killed last year. This year, 17 African-American teens shot and killed. All Black, all shot with guns, all under the age of 20. One of them 3 years old, one of them 5 years old. Okay. You know what the clearance rate is?
What?
29.6%.
Right. Because no one cared.
Because these cases are not being closed. No one is closing these cases. And you know what I have right here?
Why?
You tell me. I'm too new to find out, but I'm going to start closing them. I have the homicides for decedents under the age of 20. I have them on my desk right now. And I have the telephone numbers of the mothers.
Oh.
I am going to be calling every mother to tell her, I haven't forgotten your son. I haven't forgotten your daughter.
Wonderful.
That's what I do.
Yes.
That's what we have. We have to touch people to let them know. Law enforcement isn't just about locking people up. It's protecting citizens, and it is protecting those families who have been destroyed by crime.
Yes. That's such a new way of looking at crime.
In DC it is.
In DC, in blue cities. Yeah. What is it about blue cities that Democrat cities? I mean, when Donald Trump's talking about sending in the National Guard and journalists say to him, well, why don't you send anyone into Republican cities? And he says, well, you look at the top 25 cities in this country for homicide. They're almost all of them are Democrat run.
There's no question.
And why is that? Why, when it's their own constituents who are being victimized?
Well, because unfortunately, it's not about protecting the victim. It's about politics. It's about making sure that they maintain power. And they try to convince people within their jurisdiction that things aren't so bad and that if you're arrested, that's because you are really the victim. Everything is upside down in these blue cities. They see the criminals, they see the abusers as the person who needs to be protected. I see just the opposite. Mm-hmm. I see the criminal as a person who made a decision to literally ruin another person's life and maybe take that life away and ruin the lives of everyone around that person. And therein lies the difference. It's about politics and ideology and maintaining power. And this, what we're doing here is a petri dish. It's a blueprint.
Yes.
The surge has literally shown that we can reduce crime like that.
Yeah.
That we can absolutely make a difference. And if you don't like what is going on with federal people in your jurisdiction, then what you're saying is you don't want to protect the citizens. What you're saying is that I'd rather people be victimized. I go out, people thank me wherever I go and say, thank you. Thank you. And I'm like shocked, like they even know who I am here in Washington.
But you can see the difference. It's palpable coming to Washington now. There are no homeless tents.
Yeah.
You feel safer. There are more people on the streets. The restaurants seem to be more lively.
They are. The restaurant owners will tell you that.
Right.
Yeah.
So you did this almost overnight against, a lot of negativity and so on. Did Donald Trump wait until you came in May to decide that he was going to clean up DC? Did you have a conversation with him about sending in the troops? What was it that triggered him?
I don't know what triggered him. Obviously, you would have to speak to the president about that. But as soon as I heard about the executive order, I mean, I was all in. I mean, this is my jurisdiction. This is where all these cases are going to be screened and prosecuted. And the difference between this office and Matthew Graves' office, I mean, I came into this office, I saw it as neglected. I saw it as an office that was literally not attended to. We're short 90 prosecutors, 150 legal assistants and paralegals. I don't even know what the rules are, who comes in, who doesn't come in. There wasn't this tight kind of the way I would run an office. We'll put it that way. And so I had a lot to catch up on. I had a lot to make sure I was able to follow through on. So for example, when Matthew Graves was here, one of the biggest complaints during the Biden administration
was a Biden appointee.
He was a Biden appointee.
And a protector of Hunter Biden.
Yes.
Very famously, he declined to join the prosecution with the U.S. Attorney David Weiss in Delaware. Do you know anything about that? Have you found anything, any material in the files about his decision on that?
You know, if I did, I couldn't tell you, Miranda, because my job and my charge as a prosecutor is really to put the evidence where we can prove it in court and not to talk about it. So historically, prosecutors have always said we don't confirm or deny the existence of an investigation unless there's something ongoing that we can confirm that's pretty much visual to everyone else. But there's no question that during the Biden administration, this office was not supporting the police in terms of actually filing charges. So in 60% at one point, 60% of the arrests made by the Metropolitan Police Department here in DC, they were not filing charges. So the police would arrest and the Biden people wouldn't prosecute.
Why?
I don't know. You have to ask them. Do you want to know what the numbers are now with me as a DA, as a U.S. Attorney? Less than 10%.
Right.
I paper, as they call it here, more than 90% of the arrests.
As in charging.
But so the difference is we got to work the cases. We got to make sure that we've got the evidence and do all the discovery. I mean, it's a lot of work here. But we are subject to these liberal leftists, subject to the DC Council.
Same thing.
That they pass laws that make it almost impossible for me to get sentences that are appropriate. For example, if there's a 19-year-old who goes on a public bus with an illegal gun and shoots another person.
Has that happened?
Yes, this is a real case. Shoots another person in the chest. To me, that's intent to kill. It's in the chest. You know, God forbid that person die and the person didn't die. The 19-year-old is prosecuted by my office, convicted by my office. We're at sentencing. So the judge at the time of sentencing says, pursuant to the Youth Rehabilitation Act that was passed by the DC Council, I'm not going to give you the mandatory minimum of 5 years as required by law. I'm going to give you probation for a couple of years. Go to college.
Youth. At 19, he's an adult.
19. He is an adult. He is an adult. But under that statute, that the law gives the judges the right to give them probation. He walked out of that courtroom. I would have put him in prison for the gun.
Yes.
For the gun alone, let alone shooting someone who, but for the grace of God, should be dead.
DC juries are a problem too, aren't they?
Yes.
I mean, you recently prosecuted a Department of Justice employee, one of several, who was abusing the ICE and customs people who were here, border protection people, and threw a Subway sandwich at one of them. And DC jury threw it out.
The grand jury threw it out. Look, we put in the evidence. The case was solid. It was all there. And we'll get questions like from grand jurors. Is this part of the surge? No, wait a minute. That's none of your business.
Right.
That is not the issue here. The issue is this a crime where we have met the elements of the statute? And so what you've got is you've got people on grand juries that we have seen, especially during the surge, react. And you hit the nail on the head, Miranda, in your first question. 6% of Washington voted for Donald Trump. 94% voted against him. So who's on those juries?
Yeah.
You know, it's real easy to figure this out. What I have to do is I have to fight the fight, try to get objective jurors to see, and I think we can.
Do you?
I do. I'm a believer. I've always been a believer that when they see that these are real crimes affecting real people, that it's not about the politics that the left wants you to believe it is. This is about people bleeding on the streets.
What about Russiagate? Now, we've seen Jim Comey. He's been indicted. We've got grand juries looking at others, including James Clapper, John Brennan, former CIA director, former NSA. That is political. That's not people bleeding, but it crippled this country and crippled Donald Trump's first presidency, has done immense damage. Comey's in Virginia, but again, very liberal juries.
Yeah.
Do you think he will be convicted? Do you think that justice will be served in these cases?
You know, obviously, I can't speak to what a jury is going to do. I can only hope that the jurors will stay true to their oath to be objective and to make a decision based upon the facts that they hear within the four corners of a courtroom. I used to charge juries all the time that they not let anything else interfere. And I agree with you because, I was at Fox during Russiagate.
Yeah.
And it was incredibly divisive to the country. It was debilitating. The country, people were fighting with family members and everyone else over whether or not Donald Trump was a Putin puppet or a Russian asset. It was horrific. And now we know about that. The investigations, I can't talk about them. What I can tell you is that everyone is looking at everything at this point, as well we should, because the American people need to have faith in the justice system. They don't have it. And that's for good reason. And now when people are being prosecuted, we can at least say that, you remember you said no one's above the law. Is no one above the law only if it's to your advantage? Yeah. It's foreign to us. And we really have to worry also about our kids. I mean, they're being taught what to think and not how to think. And so as they grow and as they go through colleges and universities and law school, they become part of the ideologues and the politicians. And it's frightening.
Do you think that, everyone's talking about this is Trump's retribution and how dreadful it is. But isn't it important to have deterrence, to hold people accountable, even if it's only half a dozen of them?
Oh my gosh, it's not retribution. It is Lady Justice who's blindfolded with those scales saying what has been done that is illegal and against the law. Why have people been ghosted about what the truth is and what the truth isn't? I mean, we lived through, I think, some of the most difficult First Amendment times in American history when, people were canceled and they were deplatformed and all that other stuff. When it involves criminal activity, there's got to be a response. You can't just look away and say, oh, everything's good. Let's do a kumbaya. No, we're in a new time now. You have a young guy like Luigi Mangione who's charged with murder, a cold-blooded murder on a New York City street, a coward no less, shooting someone in the back for whatever his political reason was, and people support that. We have to do something to readjust. And that's where President Trump is doing the work that needs to be done, by making people accountable, by not backing off, by not saying, oh, let's just let this go. And it's the same with any other criminal case. And thank God for this president, because if it weren't for him, this city would continue to go down. The DC Council has passed laws that are harmful to the residents. One of the DC Council members, I might add, I just indicted. All right. So corruption, of course. And, what we've got is we've got to lower the age. We've got to get rid of that, some of these laws. And we've got to deal with judges who are releasing young people because they think it's the right thing to do.
So where does the assassination culture that we're now living through, where does that come from?
It comes from a belief that has been cultivated for many years now, that it's okay to hate and then kill someone who is a leader because they're a Nazi. And, you keep watering that seed, watering it, and, it starts to bloom and it flowers. And that's where we are. The hate has flowered into outright a rejection of law and order, into we should be able to kill this person because he doesn't agree with us or because we think he's a Nazi. I mean, think about this. 30 years ago, this was lunacy. Today, it's accepted by young people.
And is that sort of the inevitable offshoot of this lax law and order that we've seen from Democrats for many years? And particularly it blossomed in the 4 years of Joe Biden.
It blossomed in the 4 years of Joe Biden because Joe Biden didn't care about law and order. The only law and order he cared about was making sure that his son and his family were protected, as evidenced by the pardons that that AutoPen signed on his way out the door. It also is a result of the fact that the hate and the division was created by the left because they knew they were losing America. They knew that they were losing middle America. And the only thing that they could do was try to convince those people who were willing to listen, who didn't or weren't willing to dig deep, that people on the right were Nazis and dictators. And I just think the fact that 78 million Americans voted for Donald Trump was proof positive that the American people know the difference between retribution and law and order.
Mm-hmm.
The American people know that. And that gives me hope. And that allows me to continue to work here toward a safer DC. And, there's something called quality of life crimes. And I am finding out that quality of life crimes are not included in some of the DC statistics. Okay. That means the breaking of windows, all the broken windows theories from New York City that worked when I was a DA and years ago. That has to be addressed here. And the president,
urinating in the street, smoking pot.
Yeah, smoking pot, being in a place where, you're drinking and you're not supposed to be drinking, all of these quality of life crimes. Or, just recently I heard about a case where a car was keyed, from the front of the car to the back of the car, which they say, the police said wasn't a crime. It was an incident.
Wow.
Yeah. So there's a lot of layers to this onion that needs to be peeled back to bring Washington back. But by making Washington beautiful again, you juxtapose that against the broken windows and you realize that the broken windows that we're going to start to repair and the president making sure the streets are clean, the tents are gone, gives us the illusion, if only that, of safety, but it ultimately ends up in the reality of safety.
Because people come into the street, they take over, the criminals recede.
Yeah, they had the criminals receded. Look, during the surge, there was a 57% reduction in homicides. There was a 53% reduction in burglaries and robberies. I mean, crime went down. Carjackings. Enormous reduction.
Yeah.
So this blueprint, this petri dish, should be utilized in every other blue city, whether they like it or not. Because I can tell you right now that the people in Chicago, they want safety. They want to be able to have their kids walk to school. They want to be able, look, what is the mayor's numbers there in Chicago? What are his favorables?
3% or something.
Yeah, something like that.
Brandon Johnson is the most unpopular mayor in the country.
Yes.
And Pritzker is not far behind.
And what do they want? They want to resist the president bringing in safety and law and order.
Can he do that, though, legally? There's so many legal barriers in front of him every step he takes.
Well, everything he does is being tested every day. And you know what? If I'm President Trump, I do what I have to as the president of the United States to make people safe. Let's not play games with people's lives because every day people are dying. Every day people are dying on the streets. They're being shot. Their lives are being terrorized like a thunderbolt that comes out of the sky. Their lives are never the same because someone didn't think crime was worth attending to. We do. And that is the difference with President Trump. And, he's doing it on the world stage.
With just the force of his personality.
It's the force of his personality and his intellect. He's brilliant.
Right. You've known him for many years, haven't you?
About 38, I think.
When did you first meet him and how different was he then?
He wasn't different at all. I met him. My then husband was representing him and I think I was the DA or I was a judge, whatever. And we started socializing together and he was the same person he is today. But what people don't know about him is that when we would walk down the streets in Manhattan, he would say, this person, this is Jeanine Pirro. And I'm like, but I'm with you, Donald Trump at that point. If we went to dinner, he would go into the restaurant, into the kitchen and thank everyone and, take care of everyone, give them money. Wow. He's an incredible man and they turned him into this horrible human being. And I know the real man and what you're seeing on the world stage today and him in this second term is the Donald Trump, the negotiator, the guy who's fighting for you, who's fighting for law and order and safety and prosperity.
Yeah.
Prosperity.
Why has he got so much more sort of mojo this time than the first time?
It's a question that I ask a lot of people. I asked Susie Wiles that. I said, Susie, is this attributable to you?
Yeah. What did she say?
She just smiled when I first told her that. And she said, well, I don't know. But I think that the president knows. I think Butler did a lot to President Trump. I think when he got shot in Butler, Pennsylvania, and he survived when he should not have, he knew that he had a mission, and he knew that he didn't have time to waste. And the fact that he's done so much in 9-10 months is clear that no one can keep up with him. No one.
Right.
And, you have to laugh when they were saying, with President Biden, oh, we just can't keep up with him. Really?
Yeah.
I mean, you see President Trump every day.
Yeah.
And I'm very proud to be working in this administration. He is giving me the tools that I need to be able to fight the good fight. And we're going back. We're looking at cases. There was a bombing in Jerusalem in 2001, 24 years ago. And the family lost a family in Jerusalem, the Sbarro pizza bombing. Family lost a 16-year-old. And they contacted someone in my office and they said, would she be willing to talk to us about the case? It's not been,
Would you be?
Yeah. Yeah. Would I be? And I said, well, of course I would. And then I found out that no one had spoken to this family in 10 years.
And what's their connection to DC?
Because it's our case, the terrorism case, American citizen killed. Okay. So,
and no one had done anything about it.
No.
Wow.
No. And so my job here, the president's job, is to bring justice.
Mm-hmm.
We've got the Lockerbie case in this office.
Wow.
It's coming up in April of 2026.
That was the bombing.
Pan Am bombing in 1988 in Scotland. And that's our case that we'll be trying. I have a phenomenal national security team in this office.
Case.
Yeah. That's happening here in April. And again, we have witnesses all over the world. These are huge cases. These are enormous investigations. Yeah. And, but, with this president, we're active and we're on it. And therein lies the difference.
And for you, I mean, it's been, you took a huge pay cut to come here.
You think?
So, I mean, for you, it's really a service, isn't it?
Yeah.
And you're back to your roots and what you loved, which was the law. Let's go back to your childhood. You grew up in a small town in New York State, Elmira, sorry.
Yeah,
excuse
that's all right.
me. That's my Australian accent.
Yeah.
Elmira.
Yeah.
Tell us about your childhood, your parents, your family.
Well, I grew up in a small town. I had one sister, and my father was a veteran. He fought in World War II, and my grandfather as well. And my mom was a model, and
she was beautiful.
She was beautiful. And
tell her about it. Her childhood was quite miserable, wasn't it?
Yes, it was. She was born in the United States. And I'm Lebanese, of Lebanese descent, 100%. And because she was a girl, her family didn't want her and her three sisters, so they sent her to Lebanon to be raised, even though she was an American citizen.
Wow.
And so she came back. Her father brought her back when she was about 19.
Did he have sons?
Of course. And they inherited the business and everything else.
So he kept the sons and sent the girls off.
Yes.
Wow.
So, if you ever analyze my career, I mean, I'm sure that to a certain extent, I carry my mother's, not baggage, but I carry it as a badge of honor in fighting for battered women in the first unit in the nation, fighting for abused children, fighting for people who don't have a voice, to the silent victims of crime.
Was she a victim of?
No, but I think she was victimized because she was not allowed.
Right.
She didn't get an education in this country. She should have been able to live in this country. She lived with an uncle, and, it was very different for her. And she was a survivor, and she came back and had a wonderful life. But she always made me sensitive to the needs of the victim. And when I became DA, everyone was about, locking up the criminal. And I was about, I'm going to do that, but I want to heal the victims.
Right.
And that's what kind of made me different over the years. That's why, I've got these victims. That's who I am.
So you're a tough prosecutor, but you always do that with the victim in mind.
Always.
Yeah.
Always. And
is that why you started the first, I think, domestic violence unit in the country? In the country, yeah.
Yeah.
So tell us about those times. When was that, and what was the atmosphere?
It was 1977, I believe. The law had just been changed in New York, giving criminal courts concurrent jurisdiction with family courts to handle domestic violence. And so when I found out about that, I went and I said that I wanted to run it. And I wanted to do a pilot project. So we were one of 4 pilot projects funded by the Department of Justice here in Washington. Mine was the only that survived. And it was a crusade. Because
so you were kind of a feminist.
I never used that term.
No.
I was a strong woman.
Right.
I was a strong woman who believed that a woman could do anything a man could do. And you weren't going to pinpoint me or categorize me as one or the other. But I was always the only woman in the room. You know, I was a DA with 43 police chiefs. They were all men and I was a woman.
And did they respect you?
As an assistant DA, you know, they would say to me if I were lecturing them, and we're going way back, they would say, honey, can you give me a cup of coffee before you start lecturing?
And what would you say?
Well, the devil over here said, give him the damn coffee and pour it on his lap. And the angel said, give him the coffee, be nice, and you'll make a friend. And so it was a very fine line. When I became the DA, there was tremendous respect. I earned their respect.
Right.
I earned their respect. I earned the respect of a county, which was a Democrat county that I won 4 times. County of 1 million people, bigger than the district.
How did you do that? Because you were elected DA, you were elected a judge.
Yeah. How did I do it? Because I was honest. You know, when I'm not in my comfort zone, I can't communicate. I'm not a good politician. If I don't believe it, I can't say it.
Right.
You know, my mother and my father, I mean, it was all about God, education, and country. It was real simple. We had a very simple life. Very simple. And my mother, you know, I first wanted to be a lawyer. I used to watch Perry Mason as a kid. And they would say to me, the relatives, you can't be a lawyer. You're a girl.
Oh.
Yeah, I'm no spring chicken. So it was always a fight. It was always a fight, whether it was for battered women, abused children, victims of hate crime. I fought for a hate crimes law in New York with John Cardinal O'Connor. Here's my cardinal right here. Do you remember John Cardinal O'Connor?
Yes, of course. Oh,
that's him at a red mass. He and I were very close, and we got Cardinal O'Connor to join. We needed the church to help us to get the hate crimes law passed in New York. And the only resistance was from the Catholic Church. And he ended up saying, you know what?
You went over and schmoozed him.
I didn't schmooze him. A lot of people did, but he was my friend. And I miss him dearly. He's still on my desk.
Isn't that lovely?
Years later.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so you watch Perry Mason, you wanted to be a lawyer. You go to law school and there you meet your husband.
Yes.
Al, who apparently was very charming.
He's still a charmer.
Right.
Yeah, I met him in law school. I skipped a year of high school because I was in a rush. I was always in a rush.
Right.
Yeah, I met him in the law school. And the first thing he says to me, we were at the bookstore, he says, I had a check. My parents gave me a check. So I said, how much are the books? You know, contracts, real estate, criminal law. He said, the books are on me.
Oh,
and I remember I was writing that. I said, who are you? He said to me, you're going to marry me. And I'm like, that's exactly what I like.
Well, you just met him.
Yeah, who is this guy?
And he's the clerk or the clerk behind the...
Yeah, he was working the bookstore to make money. And then at night, he would mop the floors at the law school. But he was also president of his class.
Right.
He was in the moot court competition.
Right.
He was one of those.
Right. So he was like you, really.
Yeah.
You met your match.
Yeah, I did.
Yeah.
I did. And we had 2 great kids. And
was it love at first sight?
No.
It wasn't?
Not for me. No, I didn't. For him, it was.
Right.
He'll tell you that. But, you know, and it was a good life.
Were you ready to get married at that stage? I mean, you were a woman on.
Interesting. That's an interesting question.
Why did you?
Because I loved him.
Right.
I loved him.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's real simple.
And did you want to have children?
No.
Or were you on a career path?
No. Waited 10 years.
Wow.
Waited 10 years before I had kids. And
why was that?
Because I wasn't sure. I was like, you know, I love my career. He loved his career. And we waited.
And in those days, it was really, women felt they had to make a choice.
Yeah. And I made a choice.
Yeah.
And, you know, I didn't have any. And then, you know, as soon as we could, we did. And I had 2 great kids.
And what changed your mind about having children?
As I looked at my friends, not that they looked like they were having fun, but that when I got older, it would just be me. Yeah. And I wanted a legacy. You know, you have a career legacy, but I wanted a personal legacy. And my relationship with my mother was very unusual. We were extremely close. And I wanted to have that with my daughter.
Yeah.
And I had a daughter first, and then I had a son, and now I have a grandson and 4 dogs.
Oh, lovely. But you and your husband Albert ended up splitting up.
Yeah.
And he was a bit of a naughty boy in the end, wasn't he? I mean, he was very successful in real estate and so on.
Yeah.
But do you think he was targeted in a way because you were running against Hillary Clinton, you were running for office? Do you think because he was done for tax evasion, and that's something that
2%
is often used? Yes,
2%.
2% what?
Taxes.
Ah, really?
You decide.
That is ridiculous. So they got him for not paying 2%.
Look, I don't want to get into it, but what I can tell you is this. I don't think there's any question based upon people who had previously worked with Hillary Clinton that we became friends with subsequently who made it very clear that was a target. And you see, the Democrats—
And that's their MO.
The Democrats have always been good at this. And, you know, it's amazing that they're like, oh, it's retribution, whatever, when, you know, hopefully, and I believe the American people know the difference. But I think we have been so beaten down by the left that at some point we're at the place where I think people know what it is and they know the difference. And it's a shame.
Hillary Clinton, she did that to Trump with the Russiagate hoax. Tulsi Gabbard, I'm told, she was behind her being targeted on the so-called Quiet Skies TSA program. This is a woman who is good at retribution and doing that to her enemies. And you were kind of patient zero in that because
very early on.
You ran for the Senate against Hillary Clinton, but you had to pull out.
I pulled out. There was no question that it was not going to be a fair fight.
Why? How did you know?
Because there'd be articles written before I went to an event regarding what I said.
Really?
Yes.
Talk about fake news.
Yes, it was fake news, but I didn't know it was fake news then. Yeah, no, it was real clear to me. I was like, see, I'm a lawyer. You know, this happens, this happens, this happens. And I'm like, these people are on another planet. Yeah. So I ran for Attorney General in New York.
Against
Andrew Cuomo. Yeah. And he won, and I never said a word. I mean, that's it.
And was that a clean fight?
Sure. When you lose, it's always a clean fight. You can never, as far as I mean, I never did and I never will.
Right.
But you know, those days are over, and that's why I'm so glad to be back doing what I do.
Do you think that if you'd been running or all of that now,
different,
you totally would have had a different attitude?
Yeah.
And is that because of Donald Trump?
Yes. Right. I think President Trump has changed the landscape. President Trump, I think, has taken the veil off of politics, where he now has shown us what is reality, what is politics, what is ideology. I mean,
the corruption of the media,
the corruption, the border is closed.
Yes.
No one's coming into the border. And yet we're watching this. We're watching Bill Maloogian on Fox, you know, with the drones that the Biden administration tried to get him to take down. They didn't want the Fox drones up, to see the millions of people who are coming across the border. You know, thank God, I say it again, for President Trump. I mean, the border is now really closed. And it didn't get closed because someone said, don't.
Yes.
Don't. It's closed because someone had the strength to back up their directive. And, you know.
Do you think he's going to be able to deport all of the people that came across during Biden's
I don't know. You have to ask him that. That's out of my league.
It's
that's
tough,
out of my league. Yeah, you know it's tough. You know.
And is DC still a sanctuary city?
Yes.
Right.
We're going to change all that. There's going to be a lot of changes in DC. We're going to start prosecuting young people as soon as we lower the age of accountability.
And how do you do that? Do you get Congress? Right.
Congress. I've been all over. And right now what we're doing is we're sending the message that it's about accountability and consequences. And no more is there going to be, send them all to family court or, make sure that they're not arrested or, lower the numbers of arrests. All that's going to change. I have a set of things that I want to do. And I'm going to do those things.
And what are the top three?
The DC Council rules, the Incarceration Reduction Act, the Youth Rehabilitation Act, Second Chance Act, where they want to just seal everybody's record, just seal the record. So if I'm not a teacher, but let's say I'm running a dance class and someone wants to come in and teach the kids. DC doesn't want me to know if they've got a prior conviction
for pedophilia
or sexual assault or anything.
Right.
Okay.
Crazy.
And yeah, that's wrong. Or if I'm an employer and I want to hire someone who's been charged with petty larceny or theft, they shouldn't be able to see that. That should be sealed. Hogwash. That's absurd. That is absurd.
But how do you change what the council has decided?
Well, this is where the president comes in. What the president is doing is he is working on making DC safe and beautiful by making sure that he has discussions with people in DC who can help make DC safe and beautiful. I'm just one piece in the car.
Was it your relationship with Muriel Bowser, which I think is quite good, that sort of smoothed the wheels for the DC intervention that Trump made?
I don't know. I mean, I can't credit myself with that, but I made it a point to meet her early on and to make friends with her. And
what's she like?
She's a nice person. She's a very nice person. If you can just get rid of the politics and you have her, and she realizes now that her future depends upon the prosperity and safety of the city. And once you get to the common ground, then it's easy. It's easy to work together.
And she wants to stop it being a sanctuary city.
She does. She does.
But she gets rolled herself.
She gets rolled herself. Those are decisions that she has to make. She's a politician and she runs for office now. But with the president and the attorney general, Pam Bondi also, I mean, there is
another old friend of yours.
Yes, another old friend of mine. There is a collaborative effort.
Yes.
And everyone is working. Everyone has a piece in the wheel. And that's what is going to make DC beautiful again. It should be. It's a nation's capital. My gosh.
And do you pick up the phone to the president and to Pam Bondi, or do you meet them regularly?
I see the president. I talk to him regularly. I talk to Pam regularly. Yes, absolutely. You have to.
So it's a real teamwork.
It's definitely teamwork.
So, Judge Jeanine, New York was your home previously. I know you love it.
I love New York. It's beautiful. The food's wonderful. The people are great. Everything is, I love New York. Yeah. It's the energy that you get from the city. I want New Yorkers to be safe. I want New Yorkers to be able to do what we're trying to do here in DC. And that is enjoy life, go for a walk. Here we're trying to stop an intern going out for a hamburger at 10:30 and getting shot.
Yeah.
The three dumbest words that Democrats ever uttered were defund the police. And if they haven't figured out now that that is a key to destruction, if they haven't figured out that that isn't the absolute direct way to destroy a city and family and businesses, then we haven't learned anything in 250 years.
But they know and they don't care. You look at J.B. Pritzker, he thinks his route to becoming president is to block Donald Trump at every turn, to, in Portland, they're insisting on the fences being taken down to protect ICE. What is the mentality of the Democrats that they think that's the way to win? There's still, it's not like there are landslide elections for Republicans. Democrats still win even with that mentality. Abigail Spanberger.
Yeah, she won't say that men shouldn't be in women's bathrooms. I mean, I can't believe this. The question now is, I talked about it earlier, and it's that seed that was planted and watered and then cultivated and blossomed and then flowers. We've got a whole new generation that believes that socialism is good. They believe that, the police are bad. And they are so soft that they don't know what hard times are. And, you and I and a lot of people can relate to, even if you look at world history, what it's like. Look at people in Israel and Gaza and, just getting killed because of who you are. They don't live in that world. They live in the world of social media where the algorithms just feed what they have been, they are inclined to look at. And they are convinced that the totalitarians and the dictators are deserving of being killed. And therefore, they can't dig deep into these issues. They can't. They don't see it. They are brainwashed.
Right.
They are brainwashed. And that's why I worry about the kids who, they're not taught how to think. They're taught what to think. And then if that's what you think, then that's the way things should be.
Do you see after Trump, do you see yourself
I don't want to think about
again?
No.
Never.
No. You know what? The difference between me and many others is that this is not a jumping off point to the next spot. This is doing what I love. Mm-hmm. This is hopefully making a difference, having an impact, getting back to accountability and law and order, making sure that people understand that they can't violate other people. And whether it's at a pizza bombing in Jerusalem or a bombing in Scotland where a plane blows up, or the shooting of an intern, or two people who come out of a Capitol Museum a week after I'm here and getting shot.
Yes.
Okay. This is what spurs me on, is a sense of right and wrong and good and evil. We are living in a world where there's a lot of evil. And it has always been about good and evil. I don't want to hear excuses about what you grew up or your prefrontal lobe or you were poor or you were a victim. I don't want to hear that. I listened to that for 30 years and I didn't believe it then. To me, the victim is the victim. The abuser is not the victim. And to me, it's time to settle the scores, to make things right. And that's why I'm here. And after this, I don't know. We'll see.
I always ask everybody this.
Yes.
Secrets of success. You are successful yourself and you've met lots of successful people. What is it that is the secret that you see?
Secret to success. It's always hard work. Right. It's always determination. It's always perseverance. It's going to bed at night thinking and waking up with that same thought in the morning. It's an obsession. It's a linear line. This is what I want. This is what I need. This is why I took this job in DC. This is who I am. That's why I'm here.
And for women, as a woman, as a mother, it's extra complicated. What's the secret there? What's the advice you'd give to other women?
When I was the DA, I promoted a lot of women. It was very unusual then. And I hired a lot of women when I was the DA.
Why?
I thought it was important that they get a chance. Mm-hmm. I had judges who would say to me, oh, yeah, at the sidebar, you have nice legs, or I like this, or I like that, and you're like, I can't believe this. But it was a different time.
Yeah.
And I wanted to give women a chance, and they had to be competent. Okay. And I had minorities in the office. I had Spanish-speaking people in the office. I promoted African Americans, all that. I did this 30 years ago. That's why I'm so stunned. DEI. Yeah, before DEI, before #MeToo, I did all that stuff. It's about being fair based upon merit. But one of the things that I would tell women who had just had a baby and they were coming back to work, I would always say to them, do not come back unless you've got everything taken care of at home. Mm. Because if you don't have the right person caring for your baby, or you don't have the right daycare center or whatever you're using, do not come back. Because I need all of your mentality when you're here. And I understand you're a mother and you've got that tug. A lot of women aren't used to it. Mm. But for me, I was able to compartmentalize when I was at work. And when I came back to work, I was worried that having been a mother, maybe I couldn't prosecute child abuse homicides, which I was expert at. I did a lot of child abuse homicides. And I was worried, having had a baby, that I might not be as tough, or I might be weak, or no. Have faith in yourself.
Or maybe more tough.
Yeah, probably I was. I was different. Sometimes I'm too tough, but that's just who I am. You know, I grew up in a time when I had to fight with men to get an equal footing. And that's okay. That's okay. That's okay.
Terrific. Thank you, Judge Jeanine. You've been wonderful.
Thank you. It's good to see you.
You too.
And I miss New York.
I know. I'm sure you do. I'm Miranda Devine, and this is Podforce One. Thanks for listening, and please hit the like and subscribe buttons so that you don't miss any future episodes.